Hey Ottawa, this is Annalee Rice with Royal LePage Performance Realty in your nation's capital on this Colonel By holiday weekend. I hope you're having a great long weekend if you have the day off. And let's get into the Monday market snapshot for the Ottawa real estate market for August 7th, 2023. This is our first week in August, and let's see what was happening this last week. First off, let's look citywide. We see that there was a slight increase to the number of active listings across the city this week. We had a climb of 25, which brought us for the first time this year over the 1900 mark for active listings. The sales this week were slightly down, just at 215, and the sales dropped significantly in the detached market and were up for townhomes and condos across the city. When we look at things in the graph form, we see that the active listings climbing to their highest level for the year, and we see that the conditionally sold and sold properties dropped slightly this week, which means that although it's quite steady, it's slightly down for the overall number of properties on the market total for the week. This drop in sales for conditional and firm sales is probably due to the long weekend. It's probably the largest contributor as to why the active listings actually climbed this week when less sales happened. When we look at the number of active listings that came out this week, we had 403 properties listed this week, and that's higher than the last couple weeks, and it's obviously lower than what we saw throughout the spring, but fairly good for August. But of the properties that were listed, 72%, 292 properties, were new to the market. That's pretty standard, pretty close to what we had the last few weeks. And we had 28%, or 111, were relisted properties, and that is higher than what we were seeing typically. But the higher percentage of relisted property makes total sense because it is the first week of the month, and so a lot of properties, if they either want to refresh at the beginning of the month, or more likely because a lot of expired listings get canceled and then get relisted at the beginning of the month. So here we have the graph for conditions and no conditions. So we had 20% of the homes that sold this week did so without a conditional period. And of the properties that sold this week, only 14% were on the market for 7 days or fewer, and 59% for 30 or fewer days. Of those homes that sold within the week with 7 days, 60% sold with no conditions. Now, if you've been tracking along for the last while, you'll see that these percentages are all quite low. And this leads me to believe that there just was a fair segment of the buyer pool that just weren't out shopping this week. People who were might have jumped on a property and purchased quite quickly in a week. They weren't there, so you have less competition, fewer multiple offer situations, therefore more ability for people to have those conditions if they are buying, but just fewer sales overall. Let's zoom into the different regions of the city to see what's going on. In the central urban region, we see that there was an increase in the detached and the condo market active listings and a drop for the townhomes. And for sales, we had an increase for townhomes and condominiums, most notably the condominiums, and a slight drop for the detached sales. In Canada and Statesville, we have a fair drop in the number of active listings for detached homes, which makes sense. It's a long weekend, families and such, and a slight increase for townhomes and condominiums. For the sales, we had, again, a drop for detached homes and very flat for townhomes and condos. In Barrhaven and Riverside South, we see a slight increase in the active listings across property types. And for sales, the number of sales was up for detached and townhomes and down almost to zero. It was just one sale of a condominium in Barrhaven and Riverside South this week. And in Orleans, we have a slight drop in the active listings for detached homes and condominiums. And then for sales, they were down a little bit for detached homes and completely flat for townhomes and condominiums. Here are the detailed stats for detached homes across the city. As you recall, last week I was talking all about the average sale price for detached homes in Ottawa had peaked at over $1 million. And so this week we are back down to a much lower average sale price of $858,000. Sales volume and prices are much lower this week. For residential townhomes, the prices are quite consistent across the board. We're all in that lower 600 range, except for Canada Statesville, which is abnormally low at 590. And if you notice, Orleans edged out the other two suburbs for the second week in a row, having the highest average sale price for the suburbs. And here are the condo stats for the week. Okay, so that's all I've got for this week. Super quick and easy for today. I hope you're having a fantastic long weekend, but if you have any questions, comments, or anything you'd like to see in these future updates, please drop me a line, send me a message, leave a note, and please click like and subscribe. I hope you have a great long weekend.